Hi, my name is Belle and I'm a Wellbeing Champion for the Counselling Health and Wellbeing Service. This video today is to provide you with some tips to help manage anxiety. Anxiety is normal and we all feel anxious sometimes. A certain amount of anxiety helps us feel more alert and focused. For example, anxiety just prior to an exam can help us feel more alert and able to remember everything that we want to in the exam. However, too much anxiety or constantly feeling anxious can have a detrimental effect on our lives. Anxiety is the body's way of reacting to danger. Adrenaline is rushed into our bloodstream to enable us to run away or to fight. This is called the fight or flight response. This response works so well that it kicks in when it's not needed. It kicks in when there is danger and we are likely to need to run away, and it also kicks in when there is no danger and it's just perceived danger in our head. People who get anxious often tend to get into scanning mode, where they're constantly on the lookout for danger and they're constantly thinking about what's going to happen next and what's going to make my anxiety get triggered, and that in a way kind of makes it worse because you're more likely to trigger the system of anxiety because you're looking out for any perceived danger. Anxiety affects our thoughts, feelings and behaviours and can affect people in different ways. I personally suffer from anxiety, and for me I find that it gives me a shortness of breath, my hands will tingle, I'll end up sweating quite a lot. Sometimes my legs will go all wobbly. It kind of makes you breathe really shallowly and really up here, so you're not getting enough breath into your system, and it makes you then worry about that you're not breathing enough, and then you try and breathe faster, and it's just a kind of vicious cycle. I find also that it can make my head quite spinny, and sometimes that makes it more difficult to kind of bring yourself back down and try and reground yourself because your head's all up in the clouds and you can't really think about anything. These physical symptoms are quite typical of anxiety, and a lot of people have found that they do suffer from them, and a lot more people than you would expect do suffer from anxiety and get these feelings more often than they should do. Because of their nature, all of these symptoms affect how we behave. For example, we might avoid situations that we know tend to make us anxious or have made us anxious in the past, so we don't end up feeling like that again. So here are 3 ideas that may help you manage your anxiety. Number 1, try doing things differently. Slowly and surely, you need to reintroduce the anxious situations back into your life. You can start off by going to a small event with fewer people, maybe in a restaurant that you're more comfortable with, instead of a massive work party or something like that, if something that you get anxious about is social events. This would create a little bit of anxiety, but not too much that you couldn't handle. And it would also remind you that when you do feel anxious, if you work through it and you keep yourself in the situation, that eventually it will fade. The more you immerse yourselves in these situations, the more confident you'll get, and actually remind your body that you're not in danger, which will help stop that fight and flight response. Number 2, pause and take a breath. Try not to react automatically. Ask yourself, what am I reacting to? What do I actually think I'm scared of here? What danger do I believe that I'm in? Am I getting things out of proportion? How will I feel about this in 6 months' time? What's the worst and what's the best that could happen? What's actually likely to happen? A useful thing to do when you're pausing and taking a breath in a situation is to visualize yourself coping in the situation. Something I do is make sure I take at least 3 long breaths, focusing on how I'm breathing in oxygen and breathing out more carbon dioxide and rebooting my brain. This sends a physical signal to your brain that you're okay and that everything is going to be okay. Number 3, counteract the body's adrenaline response. You can do this by fueling the fight and flight mechanism and energy into something like exercise. You can do this in any way. You could cycle, you could go for a run, you could go to the gym, anything that you enjoy really. You could practice some yoga. Personally, I'm one to go for a walk because I feel like it really clears my head and changes my environment to give me different stimuli. Something I personally find really helpful are grounding techniques. For example, focusing either on touching something really soft or the feeling of eating something, and all you're thinking about is that experience. For example, I've got a cushion at home that when I'm feeling anxious I get, and it's this little heart-shaped cushion, and it's got like little swirls all over it, and it's really, really soft, and whenever I'm feeling anxious I grab it and I just run my hands over it, I cuddle it, I just focus on how that cushion is and how big it feels in my hands and how soft it is and how the feeling of how soft it is feels on my fingers. Because when you're feeling anxious, your body's sensations are heightened and you're more likely to respond to how soft something is. This works by distracting myself away from my thoughts and being quite mindful, which means being in the moment. Just to recap, I've mentioned 3 ideas today that could help manage your anxiety. Number 1 is trying to do things differently. Number 2 is pausing and taking a breath. And number 3 is trying to counteract the body's adrenaline response. For further information on how Counselling Health and Wellbeing can help you, see our other videos and find us on the student intranet.